And just like that, the votes are in. You wanted it, and we're going to go do it. We're going to review and rewatch Sex in the City, where it all began. You know, before the nightmare, you know, I'm back, and we're going to rewatch this series together in the lens of what we know now and a little bit of what we felt back then. So, this is going to be my first prologue. I won't be doing this for every single episode. I'm just going to give you a little context of how I'm going to structure this series now and a little bit of insight of where I was mentally when I was watching the original series for the first time. So let's start off with the structure. I am going to do a little bit of history for every year of the season opening. So the next clip you're going to see after I finish my prologue here is where we all were in 1998 from some historical perspectives of what happened in that year. And I will only do that for every season opening. Now, where I am or where I was at that moment, I'm just going to give you a little bit of context. I didn't start watching Sex in the City until season 2. And it was the first season I saw, the first episode. And for most of us who are true fans, it was the one where Samantha was in a relationship with someone that she met at a jazz club. I was kind of forced into watching Sex in the City because most of my girlfriends at the time were watching it, and they were like, you got to watch the show. You got to watch the show. And I'm like, I'm not getting HBO. I'm not getting HBO. I refuse to get HBO. I refuse it. So after I got HBO, I watched the first episode and I was like, okay, what is the big deal about this show? Why are we making such a hubbub about this? Because remember, I didn't watch season 1. So falling into season 2, episode 1, watching Samantha being some sort of pseudo relationship, I was like, okay, I don't understand what's happening here. This just seems like a normal show, like Friends, except they curse and they smoke and they show naughty bits and a little bit of sex. So I was not one too moved. Let's just put it that way. So then when my friends were like edging me on, asking me how did I like it, I'm like, it was okay, sure. And they were like, all right, you need to see season 1. I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do? So I don't remember how one of my friends got hand of it. I don't know if we were able to re-watch it or she got like the DVD. Something happened there that they all came to my house and we were watching it. And I was literally being stared at like this by all my friends waiting for my reaction to this show because they were very excited for me to get into this show with them. Though I've never forced them to watch any of my shows, I found it funny that they all were jumping down my throat about this one. I'm like, okay, sure, we can watch it as you're staring at me down my throat. It was very uncomfortable, the first episode. I have to say, season 1 was never really my favorite, but I have purchased all seasons and I do rewatch. I used to rewatch it. It set the tone for what was going to happen. So I was in tandem trying to watch season 1 and then season 2 was already happening. So I was watching both of them at the same time. So I didn't really get my bearings straight until season 3, but I understand now, especially when I'm rewatching this, how much season 1 really, really was the opening of everything that has happened thus far, even in Just Like That. All the signs were there. You know, I probably might, don't quote me on this, I don't want to say this out loud and put this in the universe, but a lot of the Carrie characteristics really still have played out in Just Like That. It was just at a very different scale. And of course, we didn't know, or we didn't want to know, or we weren't paying attention to it until it really came to head when And Just Like That started. So as I'm going through these episodes, it's going to be an interesting perspective for all of us to understand how maybe, just maybe, Carrie's character and the way she has been written throughout, not all of it, still stands true to who she was. That's not how she ended up, but a lot of the narcissism, selfishness, carelessness, except for now she has money. Very big difference. Okay. So that's part of the prologue that I wanted to bring up to you guys, because this is going to be, when you're watching this and you're diving deep into the characters, Charlotte has completely changed. We all know that. Miranda is not even the same person. I don't care what they shove down my throat. And, the loss of Samantha has been still felt very greatly. So it was nice to see this and to go back and realize certain aspects of it that I probably never would have focused on or noticed and just like that showed up. So that's how we're going to structure this. Now, I'm only going to do episode 1 because I'm doing this prologue. I'm giving you a little bit of history, and then I'm going to get into episode 1, season 1. Moving forward, I'm going to combine 2 episodes in one video. Okay. So we can get through this. It's not going to take 12 years or 1,000 years like LTW's biography that she's never finished. And we can finalize this. And as I said, every new season, I will give you some historical facts for that year. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you have a little bit more understanding. And let's get into the history of 1998. Where were you when a lot of this stuff happened? Because let me tell you, I was pretty surprised. I had forgotten so many things. For other context, I was 29 when this show started. SJP was supposedly 32 when this show started. And I bring this up because episode 1 and 2 really brings into light a lot of things that still stand true today. Even though I'm not that age anymore, I will pose the question after I get into, I'm going to say episode 1, do you in your 30s still feel this way? Because, wow, it was pretty intense. And I remember that. That was one thing that I took away from this show. Being close to being 30 and then watching this show, it's like, whoa, let me just jump right out the window. Really, seriously. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, subscribe. Stay tuned. The history of 1998 and then the recap and review of Sex and the City, episode 1, season 1. Stay tuned. Let's go back into time to the year 1998. And some of the things that I bring up in this history might just surprise you, because for me, I have forgotten so much of it, it surprised the hell out of me. In film, Titanic was still unsinkable, sweeping the Oscars with 11 wins, including Best Picture and Best Director for James Cameron. On TV, ER was the #1 show in America, but the real prescription was the drama. And believe it or not, I've never watched a single episode of this show. I'm just not that into medical dramas. I've tried various shows. I'm just not that into it. In music, Brandy and Monica's The Boy Is Mine owned the Billboard Hot 100 for 13 weeks straight. If you had a radio, you heard it on repeat. Personally, this song was not one of my favorites. I could have picked another one, but this was Billboard, so I just decided to go with it. Meanwhile, tech was exploding. 2 college kids launched a scrappy little search engine called Google. Gee, I wonder whatever happened to that little search engine that could. Where is it today? Dominating our lives, obviously. No pun intended. Apple rolled out the bright and colorful iMac G3, proving computers didn't have to be boring beige boxes. I have never owned a Mac in my life. Just not my style. They were very pretty at the time. First of all, I couldn't even afford it, so there goes that. But I've just never gotten into Macs. And if you had a cell phone, chances are it was a chunky Nokia 5110, complete with customizable covers and that snake game that ate hours of your life. I do not remember this one at all. Hell, I think I was still using only a beeper in 1998. I don't think I had a cell phone for another 3, 4, 5 years. But for those who do remember, this is a nod to you. But there is something I do remember. Let's not forget AOL. If you heard, "You've got mail," you knew you were living in 1998. And I remember this distinctively, trying to get on for 3 hours and having to wait for that darn dial up. I mean, we all do remember the dial up, right? I mean, for the ones that were able to remember that time. It was precious back then. It was just an experience that you had to be there to understand it and never want to do it again. In U.S. politics, President Bill Clinton's scandal with Monica Lewinsky dominated the news, and by December, he became only the second president in history to be impeached. Drop a comment below if you remember where you were when you first heard about this and how you felt about it. In global news, peace was finally in sight in Northern Ireland as the Good Friday Agreement was signed, ending decades of conflict known as the Troubles. And who were the biggest star couples in 1998? Well, even this list surprised me because I completely forgot about most of them until I had to do the research. Let's start off with probably who's gonna be your favorite. Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston. They started dating in 1998, and the tabloids went freaking nuts. They wouldn't marry until 2000, but in 1998, they were the hottest new couple, and they irritated the crap out of me. They were everywhere. You couldn't get enough of them, but I had enough of them. Next, Ben Affleck and Gwyneth Paltrow. They had the on and off romance in the late 1990s. By 1998, they were considered one of the hottest Hollywood young couples, both attractive, rising stars, and red carpet favorites. And well, look where they are today. This one made me laugh even harder. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Hollywood royalty at the time, married and still considered one of the most glamorous couples in the industry. Me personally, I never got the attraction between them. It didn't make any sense. And voila, look where they are today. Okay, this one you need to hold on to your knickers because this is going to be a throwback. Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. Married in 1997, they were newlyweds in 1998 and instantly became one of Hollywood's favorite couples. I'm going to say it again. And look where they are today. And for those across the pond, David and Victoria Beckham. You may be across the pond, but this is very Hollywood adjacent. Posh Spice and her soccer fiancé were the global power couple. They got engaged in 1998 and tied the knot the next year. Now, I may get a lot of hate for this, but I never really liked that group that Posh Spice was in. That wasn't just my type of music. Yes, I was younger and my tastes were different, but they're still together. Great couple. In 1998, on a somber note, we said goodbye to a legend. Frank Sinatra passed away in May, closing the curtain on one of the most greatest entertainers of all time. And I have to say, I've always enjoyed his music. I always enjoyed his movies. And whenever I want to look back at that genre in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, he's one of my top favorite people to watch and listen to. But before the year ended, something brand new hit television. On June 6, HBO premiered Sex and the City, introducing us to Carrie, Miranda, Charlotte, and Samantha. Suddenly, TV was talking about love, friendship, and sex like never before. And just like that, here we are, and you see where it went. And that's why we're doing this, to relive 1998 and when this show actually had some merit. The year 1998 was the year of scandals, breakthroughs, and pop culture that still hits today, believe it or not, after researching some of these people and events. And speaking of culture, let's dive into Sex and the City Season 1. You try to say that 3 times fast. we're going to go through episode 1 first. So buckle up, Buttercup, and let's the games begin. Welcome. Welcome to 1998, Sex in the City, Season 1, Episode 1, simply titled Sex in the City. And it was this time that I said, what the hell did I get myself into for this first episode? Let me explain. Scene opens. It starts off with a typical English journalist, and I say the word typical because this is legitimately how it is said in this first few scenes with this person. She's in a cab going over the Brooklyn Bridge. She falls for a typical investment banker who makes simply $2 million a year. Mind you, he's 42 years old. They meet at a typical fashion of I think, art gallery opening. Typical. Absolutely. That's how most New Yorkers meet. It is at this point, while my friends are staring at me, wondering how I'm going to react to this episode, I'm thinking in my head, I really need to reevaluate my friends. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, why am I watching this? This is like a really bad Hallmark made-for-TV movie opening. I'm like, this thing better get good and good fast. Because I've seen this 100 times. I've read it 100 times. But I'll rant in between. Because I'm remembering how I felt. And yet, I still feel it again while I watched it again. Okay. As they converse in this art opening, and he's flirting with her, and she's flirting with him, and, blah, 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 boring, so easy, not in New York. That's why I believe so many people came to New York believing that this is the way things work. Story. They spend the next 2 weeks canoodling, snuggling, going out, golfing or mini golfing, having dinners, having sex. 2 weeks. Yeah, I think people still do that nowadays within meeting each other. Absolutely. Sounds completely sane, especially if you have $2 million a year. I'm guessing that's what is expected if you're taking all this stuff, right? Okay. Got it. And I am sitting there thinking, oh boy. Now, all of a sudden, they're sharing their secrets, their deep, dark secrets, which they never really say what it is. All I know is that they're walking towards a townhouse in Manhattan, and he is looking to purchase it, so he takes her with her. I would be having sex with him within the first 2 weeks as well. And they're going through the townhouse. It's only a cool couple of mil. No biggie for someone that makes that much money as an investment banker, even back then. And they're walking around, and, the realtor is saying, oh, do you have any kids? And of course he sheepishly, responds, not yet. And I'm like, wow, if ChatGPT was out back then, I would think that is how they would write romances. Got it. Then he tells her, hey, do you want to meet my parents? That is every girl's dream after having this quick romance. I guess. She says, of course. Of course she is. She's going to throw herself on top of him. I've seen this 100 times, whether it's in 1998, 1978, it's in every type of film, right? Girl meets rich man, doesn't matter the age, she hooks up, he has a plane, that's it. It's like watching a really bad version of Dynasty, which was my favorite show, by the way. Don't judge me. I didn't watch Dallas. So here we go. As she is saying to him, okay, suddenly the rain starts to come down, and I'm like, okay, this is getting interesting, because I had to react for my friends. And she's on the phone. He's telling her that they cannot meet the parents because they're not feeling well. Red flag. She says, okay, and he'll call her tomorrow. And then she goes to this soliloquy of trying to call him back, and he never called back. And then all of a sudden, you see Carrie and her cigarette. And I said, okay, this could be possible. I see a trend. Got it. Then she says, you hear Carrie's narration. No one ever told Elizabeth about breakups in New York. You don't have breakfast at Tiffany's, and you don't have this, and you don't have that. And then all of a sudden you see her in her bedroom of an apartment that I do not recognize at all. Thank God they changed that apartment. And I believe it was in the episode 2. Have you seen that monstrosity? It looks like crap. I guess, for that was not the original apartment. I don't know if we all picked up on that, but I saw that right away. I was like, whoa. And I was like, all right, that sounds right. No one is buying this breakfast at Tiffany crap and all this other love crap, bull crap. And I'm like, okay, we're getting closer to a story. Got it. And then we just see her narrating, and she goes, how come there's so many great single men, but there are not many great single women? Okay. And now we have a story. And if I said that wrong or backwards, my apologies. Remember, I'm trying to remember all this off script. Got it. And we never see her again. The English journalist that I guess was friends with Carrie for like a minute and a half as she traveled back to London, which seems to be running theme. All friends are in London. Did you get that? Now starts the meeting of the group. Carrie is in front of a very antiquated newspaper stand. I haven't seen one of those in a lot of years. And again, 1998. And she takes out her magazine, very famous scene, and she is like trying to figure out the riddle of the Sphinx of why is this balance or unbalance between the two sexes, which is the unmarried woman and, of course, the toxic bachelor, which is a thing that she puts into her newspaper, because when she opens it up, you see unmarried woman and toxic bachelor. Okay. Now I'm getting to understand what's happening here. Do I fully get the full scope of it later in this episode? A little bit. It's a little shocking. I mean, in the grander scheme of things, it wasn't shocking, but now I'm beginning to understand what I was missing a little bit with Samantha. So let's meet the rest of the people, that majority that we don't get to see again ever again. Stay tuned. So let's meet the motley crew. As Carrie, is going through her toxic bachelor friends, we get to meet this one. Toxic bachelor number 1, who believes that when men are in their 20s, they're being controlled by women, but when men are in their 30s, they're being devoured by women. He calls it because there's so little of them left, so women are chasing after him at his 30s. Got it. He calls it the mid-30 flip. Okay. He believes that women should just marry fat, ugly tubs of lard when they're past a certain age, which at that point is any woman after 35. Now, I have to say that back then, even when I was growing up and I heard my mom's friends, movies, that's nothing new. That wasn't too shocking. I strongly believe a lot of people, even in this generation, when I say this generation, not my generation, the ones that are coming up that are in their late 20s, early 30s, like my son's age and a little before that, still feel that way. Like there's a expiration date, which is somewhat true. And they have this negative connotation to it, like you're just not valuable after a certain age. Unfortunately, I think now tell me if you're in your 30s or you're in your 20s and you're watching this, God bless you. if it's still the same way, because I don't have any friends of that age. I only have my son. And yeah, he and I don't talk about this. It would be kind of weird. So just let me know if this is still prevalent, but I suspect it is because I've seen they're still running things about it. Okay. Then we meet toxic bachelor number 2. This guy, Capote Duncan. And I only remember his name because he makes an impression on me at the end of this episode. He thinks it's all about biology. Women after 35, you shouldn't have to date them because if you do, you have to get married right away and have kids. And what is that all about? He thinks that all the women just want somebody that looks like Alec Baldwin, which I don't remember him being hot back then. I want to say that the one that I was more attracted to was George Clooney, though I've never seen him on ER. But that's the one that pops into my head the quickest in 1998. Sure wasn't Brad Pitt. I don't like blondes, though he wasn't ugly, but I just not him. And definitely not Tom Cruise. No. So I'm going to say George Clooney, because I think he was still running the hog there. He was riding the hog. He was doing really well. So he says that he believes that women after 35 should just give up and just go out and have fun. Okay. Again, I wasn't too surprised. I do believe people still feel that way. It is what it is. It's biology. Guys, it's biology. You know? So that was fun to meet. And then we meet this guy, Skipper Johnson. Please understand that by season 2, he didn't exist. So when I saw him in this season, I was like, who the hell is this guy? And I only say this because all of a sudden he's BFFs with Carrie. How old is this child? He's the helpless romantic. After watching season 1, I kind of understand why they let him go from the series. But nonetheless, he is in one of those voids of people that we have no clue whatever happened to them. Because toxic bachelor number 1, number 2, romantic Skipper, gone. So they've made their appearance, they made their statement, and then there'll be no more. Gone with Naya on the desert of unwanted toys of the show. Okay. Now we've got the Crazy Town men. Got it. Then, now we get to meet the girls. First off is Carrie. You know Carrie. Well, Carrie is the sex columnist who somehow falls ass backwards into money and is able to pay off all of her rent, all of her shoes, never cooks, always eats out, and whatever they're paying her at that sex columnist, it must be $1 billion a letter. And if I had known that back then, I would have been the ultimate sex columnist. I'm just saying. Because I was fascinated by her wealth and independence and seemingly no means to support herself. That's Carrie. Now we meet Miranda. Miranda is the angry female New Yorker, typical, seen her around, always bitching and complaining and, puss face. We didn't know she was a latent lesbian at that time, but she had a lot to say about men and how men at a certain age, she just doesn't, at herself, in her mid-30s, she doesn't want to settle. Okay. Now we meet Charlotte. Charlotte is the, I'm going to say, the doormat. Her first opening sentence is that most men don't want to be with a strong, independent woman and that you need to shut up and just play the game. I remember my reaction to that. I was like, well, yeah. Those are 90% of the women in my office who are just looking to shut up, play dead, be a doormat, find somebody rich, get the hell out of there, and live their lives. Now, thinking back, I could see that. I mean, it would have been harder for me to shut up, but if I would have known now what I know then, She may have been onto something. Because look how she ended up. I'm just saying. I'm talking about before and just like that. At the end of the series. Okay. And now we have the creme de la creme. Samantha. Samantha is what they're calling, the fantasy of all women. An independent woman who sleeps with men at her age who are in their 20s. And I want you to understand that Kim Cattrall's age in this show, when the show started, was 40. And she's sleeping with men in their 20s. She doesn't have any children. She seemingly has money. And her arc is about having sex like a man. That's what we're introduced to her saying. Remember, I only saw one episode of her in season 2 when I started, where she was in a relationship. And now I'm listening to this woman talk about having sex like a man. And that give up on romance, just go out there and bunk your brains out. Now we have a show. Now this is something different. Now you brought me something tangible. Because, Carrie and her narcissism and her miraculous, funnel of money, Charlotte and Miranda, I could literally walk out the street even today and find those 3 women still existing. But Samantha, that character, I was like, okay. And finally, my friends took their breath out of my face and was relieved that I was actually paying attention and I could breathe again. And I'm like, thank you. Back the truck up. Give me a minute to absorb this minutia. Okay. Now that we have all the cast of characters, except for one more, which I'll get into in a few minutes because that is tied into Carrie. Let's get into what this episode was about, as I'm remembering the feeling of what I was watching it and how it inevitably turns out, correct? Okay. Don't go away. Stay tuned. Let's have sex like a man. Whatever the hell that means. And I soon find out. So, now that we have the cast of characters down, our first group setting is at a restaurant, and they're celebrating Miranda, the bitchy New Yorker woman, birthday. Doesn't say the age, but I'm guessing 33, 34, I'm presuming. And we get to hear the conversation about how both Miranda and also Samantha believe that it is better to have sex like a man, which means to have no feeling, get up and walk the hell out. We have the doormat Charlotte and the narcissist Carrie sitting there saying, oh, but what about romance and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay, sure. And I only say this because I saw what's coming. A lot more. Okay, we'll go with that. So at the end of the day, Carrie takes this as one of her columns that she's going to investigate. Got it. She ends up having, I guess, lunch with Stanford. You remember him? The one that they shipped off to Japan somewhere, who's really doesn't exist anymore, that we're never going to click closure for him. Remember that one? You remember him. Well, you know what? I forgot that he has been on this freaking show since episode 1. Don't piss me off. You've done pissed me off already, and I had to get pissed off again. Okay, run over Stanford. She's having lunch with Stanford, who is a public relations, I want to say, to one client, which we don't see in this episode, which we'll get into. And he is talking about that the only true love out there is gay love. And I go back to what I have tried to explain about, and just like that, for the love of God, the last 3 years. When you look back at this show and all of the references that they've made, all of the things that they said, everything they tried to do and just like that was nothing new. They were talking about gay love, gay sex. They've had different scenarios with different people. Again, I don't know why they had to try to revamp it and muck it up, because they didn't do anything special. And that's just this show. I go back to other shows that have already been around that were doing the same thing. And I go back to Friends when Ross's ex-wife left him to become a lesbian. And no one said anything about that. We all just laughed along with it. Every single character on Will and Grace, one of my all-time favorite shows, handled and tackled and gave so much meaning to both sides of the spectrum. No one talked about that. No one tried to cancel them. Everybody loved that show. It stayed number one for a long time. So whatever they tried to do, it's already been done. So we get to hear Stanford talk about his infatuation for his billboard model that he's representing, who has a billboard on Broadway. That was a big thing back then, and pun intended. I remember Mark Wahlberg and the big underwear model thing. I was never really attracted to him, but it was funny to see all of him. Okay, so as they're having lunch, all of a sudden we have Stanford tell Carrie that the love of her life is sitting at the counter. And it's this guy, Kurt Harrington, a mistake that she made when she was 26, and again at 29, and then again at 31. Let the pattern begin. This is where I'm saying she has an issue with men and having to be the pick-me girl. So she walks, Stanford says, please don't go up to him. And she's like, what do you think? I'm a masochist? I'm like, yeah. Now this is me now. Back then I was like, I don't know. I don't know you, girl. What's going on with you? What's happening? Who are you? So she gets up and she goes to try to pretend to walk past him. And in short, she has this horrible close-up of speaking to him. And this is when I realized that, wow, she's come a long way facially after this episode. And I think even after this season, because whatever the hell was on her head, it looked like Brady, Ronald McDonald, had an aunt. And then the smoking, and then her yellow teeth from the side. And then she had the shadow makeup and the wrinkles. And I'm like, honey, you're not ready for a close-up. Are you sure you're 32 years old? That panicked me. I'm not going to lie. I was like, and mind you, I didn't remember Sarah Jessica Parker. I didn't remember who she was. I never remembered her in any real, not even in the witches thing that she played. She just never was a standout character to me. And boy, do I regret saying that now. Because now I can't get her out of my freaking head. But that moment that she's talking to the cute guy, I was like, ooh, no, nena, por favor, tú eres fea. And it's no disrespect to the fact that she would be attractive later on. It's just whatever they were doing to her at that moment, I was like, ew. That's 32 and I'm 29. I don't got a lot of years left. I'm screwed. Yeah, that's what I thought. So now she has somehow mustered up a date, because remember, she's trying to find out if she can have sex like a man with no feeling. Great. She musters the date. They meet at his place. We have a scene of him finishing her off. And all of a sudden, he says, my turn. And she says, no, I got to go. Okay. I was like, all right, it's an all right scene. I mean, there's no boobies. There's no sex. I mean, again, this is like a very slightly upscale version of what I normally see, on regular television. And this is supposed to be HBO, and okay, not that I want to see her boobs. It's like, I don't know what I'm watching. Like, why is everybody screaming and ranting and raving? Oh my God, you got to see the sex. You got to see what they're talking about. I'm like, hear what they're talking about. Okay. So you want me to pay to hear them curse when I can be here with you guys and we can curse for free and talk about sex. I don't want to see your clothes off, but at this point, I'm still not impressed. Got it. She gets up. She's wearing what I would call a piece of clothing, as she's walking out of, I presume, where he lives, in the middle of the day. She looks not dressed what I would think what someone would wear at that time, and even in 1998. And she feels empowered. She just left Kurt and feeling no feelings for him. She had sex like a man. And as she's walking, all of a sudden, somebody bangs into her and all her stuff out of her purse fall out. And she goes down to pick it up. Are you ready? Stay tuned. And here we are. As she bends down to pick up the items in her purse, we get the first glimpse of the man that would haunt us up until the first episode of And Just Like That. Mr. Big. She sees him. She says to herself in her narration, first of all, he's very attractive. She quickly gazes his hand and finds out that he doesn't wear a wedding ring, so he's not married, because that's how you do it. Because rings don't come off. You remember when you get married, they staple those things and glue it on with crazy glue, because rings don't come off. I don't know for anybody who's not married. I'm sure anybody who is married, can you please inform them? And that she's very aware that he knows the items in her purse are, I want to say, some kind of Magna Ultra tip condom thing. And he looks at her and they look at each other. And all I kept thinking to myself, now this is me time, not then time. Run, Mr. Big, run far, run fast, run like freaking, like you had no other chance. Run, Forrest, run. Yeah, well, that didn't work. It's too late. We all know what happens. If I would have known then what I know now, I would have been sending letters to them and be like, just let it go. Let it go, Elsa, let it go. So, as she coyly looks at him and she starts to walk away, and this is the reason why I say that most New York women do not wear heels in the street. Not on an everyday basis, walking around up and down the avenue. It does not happen. Okay? She trips, almost loses her dress in her heels, and she looks back and he turns around and he's looking at her and he's like, I'm like, go away. Run, Mr. Big. She gonna kill you. She gonna kill you. No, I guess not. So, that's what she does. She meets Mr. Big. So the next arc for her is that she is with Skipper having, I guess, brunch or whatever the hell they're doing. And she tells Skipper tells her, which is, by the way, a retarded name. Skipper tells her that it's been a year since and she's like, oh my God. And I'm presuming since he's had, I'm going to say sex, right? Not a date. So he's asking her to hook him up with one of her friends. And she's like, oh no, they're too old for you. And he's like, I like older women. Again, how old is his child? And she tells him, I may have someone for you. And she's thinking about Miranda. He's like, oh yeah, great. And when? And she's like, meet me at a club tonight called Chaos. And I'm like, you're still going to clubs at 32 years old? Now, no judgment. I don't want anybody coming at me, even whether you're doing it now or you were doing it then. I only say this is because I pretty much stopped going to clubs, like hard clubs, like clubs. You know what I'm talking about? The underground. If you're from New York, you know what I'm talking about. The underground. So, Isa Lisa Nicole Jam. So I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, really? You're still doing that at 32 years old? I found it weird then when I would go to clubs in my 20s and I find people in their 30s and 40s. I'm like, don't you have like somewhere else to be? Like, don't you have something? And by that time, when I was even at 29, 30, I was more into lounges. I like to go to a lounge. I was so fancy and so bougie. So she ends up telling us in the narration part of it that Miranda was going to really dislike Skipper because of the fact that he was going to be too nice and she was going to think that he was being, sarcastic. And in my head, I heard that I hook up my friends with people I know that they're not going to like because I'm just that way and because I'm a narcissist. Why would you want, if you know your friends, why would you hook them up when you know that one of them is not going to like them? I don't get it. That was red flag number 2. Okay. Next scene we have is that she's speaking to Charlotte. You know Charlotte, the doormat. And Charlotte is on the phone saying that she has a date with Capote Duncan. Toxic bachelor number 2 who thinks that it's all biology and that women after 35 should just give up and just have some fun. It's going to come back. Just you wait. And that she is telling Carrie that she has a date, that she can't come out to the club chaos, and that she does not want to believe in women having sex like men. Got it. Carrie admittedly says that in her narration that she does not want to admit to Charlotte that she just got, her rocks off and had a sex like a man. Beautiful. We'll get to Charlotte when we're done. Next scene we have is now they're at the club chaos and it looks like a club. Okay. Got it. And again, don't disrespect to anyone. If you're still going out at 32 to clubs, more power to you. If you have no kids, if you have kids, if you go out with your husband, your boyfriend, whatever, your girlfriend, whatever, good for you. But I'm going to tell you something. At some point, it's going to get a little weird if it hasn't already. Good luck. So she's there with Samantha and she meets Kurt again. And Kurt is like, giving her a hug and a kiss. And all of a sudden he kind of shines the light on her and says, yeah, I am so happy about what you did this afternoon. You just walked away and you didn't finish me. Now you know the kind of sex that I want to have. Sex with no commitment. And blew her bubble out of her brain. Because this whole time that she had the mistake at 26, at 29, at 31, and just now, she thought that she could have resolved it if she would have figured out that he never was going to have a commitment with her and he was a whore. He was a man whore. He just wanted to have sex with no strings attached. Had all of that been resolved, she could have saved herself a lot of trouble. And you would think that her knowing this, that she still wouldn't have made all the mistakes that she makes in every single scene, every single episode for the next 6 years. Including Big. Okay. So she's disappointed. And she's like, oh my God, she starts narrating and she's like, oh, and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, really? I still got to tell you to snap out of it. Even back in 1990, and mind you, my friends are still with me, watching me, and I'm just holding my tongue and I'm like, because I can't say anything. Because if I say something, I'm going to get my head bit off because I have to finish the episode. Coño carajo puñeta. Yeah, that's how I felt. I'm just sitting there and I don't even remember having any alcohol, any popcorn. I was just like, okay, don't blink. Don't show any signs of fear. Next up. Finally, we get somewhat of a name of the person she kind of met while she looked like a hooker coming out of Kurt's house. Stay tuned. So I just want to, before I say anything, because some people may not understand why I keep coming back and forth in front of the camera, I try to record in short clips because it takes very long time for me to upload these videos, and the shorter they are, the faster for me to upload and I can edit. So forgive me if I'm saying stay tuned and I'm coming in. It's not you. No, you're crazy. It's not me. It is you. Now, Samantha is in the club. Yes, she's 40 years old and she's still in the club. I give it to the men and I give it to the women. It's a little weird. I don't care. I don't care. Judge me. Judge me. And she says, do you see that guy? He's the next Donald Trump. I'm like, oh God. Even back then I was like, oh God, but he's much handsomer. Now, I'm not going to lie. I never found Chris North to be attractive. I've seen him on other shows. He does have the tall and dark that I like, but he was never conventionally handsome. He wasn't ugly, but he was not the one that would float my boat, if you get what I mean. And Carrie, and he turns around as, you know, Samantha's pointed at him, and he looks at Carrie and he does the same little wave. I'm like, go away. Shark. Carrie. So Samantha wants to know, does she know him? Because he's waving at her, and she says, I have never met him. And then Samantha says, well, if you're not going to flirt with him, I'm going to flirt with him. And I'm like, again, wow, okay. And as Carrie is narrating, she goes, Samantha had the self-confidence that would make a man like Ross Perot run for president. Is that a diss? Was she trying to disrespect? I wasn't sure if that was. I got the Ross Perot joke. I just didn't know if that was supporting Samantha or making fun of Samantha. This is a running theme that I feel throughout the entire series. We got 3 months of this, people. Subscribe. Listen. Check it out. Samantha starts going over to Mr. And the first time we hear the name, Carrie says, Mr. Big. Got it. God, it goes on forever. And as she saunters over to Mr. Big, and he's smoking a cigar, talking to women, Samantha is trying to flirt with him. And when I say flirt with him, she's pretty much giving him a very strong indication of what she's capable of doing with something in her mouth. It's like I said, now we got a show. Okay. And Mr. Big, not impressed, doesn't care what is coming out or in her mouth. She tries to entice him by saying she does the publicity for that club and that she can get it down with him in a VIP section. Would he like to go? And he goes, no, thank you. Now, I am going to guess, just a generalization, that most men at that power level don't like women who come on that strong. And if they do, they like to be spanked. Because it goes either way. Either you're going to stay very much in control and you don't want any woman to be in control and you control it, or you are going to be such a control freak that you need to get your freak off and be dominated by Samantha the dominatrix. I don't think there's a gray area. I could be wrong. I don't know everybody in the world. I'm just saying I might have some friends or experience. Did I say that out loud? So, great. He rejects Samantha. I feel that it would have been interesting to see how it would have turned out between the two of them. Just asking. Now, if I recall correctly, if I go back to Carrie, after that whole scene of her watching Samantha trying to hit on Mr. Big, the next scene we have, and I want to leave this one for last for Carrie because this is the one that really set everything off. Let's jump over to what's happening with our 2 other friends. Charlotte. Charlotte is coming down the Metropolitan Museum stairs in that beautiful silver dress, and she's with Capote Duncan, and he asks her if she wants to come back home with him to see the artwork that he has in his apartment. And she gently says, no, I have to go back home. And then he goes, okay. I'm like, and she tugs on him. She goes, well, maybe I can just take a quick look at it. Is that what we're doing right now? Because I know back then, if I didn't know you and I only had one date with you, I'm not going to your house. I don't understand any of this. I was like, what in the heck? What? How do you know him? What? It was not safe back then to do that. But no, she hops into the cab because he's looking like he's about to eat her like a monkey in a banana tree. Okay. Then you see her in his apartment. I don't know if it's a loft or a penthouse. At this point, I just know it's big. And he's like, she's looking at the artwork. Oh, this is so beautiful. And he's looking at her like, I'm going to take you in my arms and I'm just going to wrap you around and throw you on the bed. That none of that looked romantic. And I personally would have been scared. And what kills me is that if she was a real New Yorker, she wouldn't have done that. We don't do that. We don't do that. Okay. And he starts to say how beautiful she is. And he starts to kiss her for 5 seconds on her lips, and then he starts attacking her neck. And I'm going to add something here that might be a little controversial, and you will feel free to correct me if I'm incorrect. But this could be Lena's rules. When you're with a guy or a significant other, I don't judge, and if they only kiss you gently a little bit on your lips and they go straight for your neck and they start rubbing up against you, it's a one-night stand. Because he went straight into what he wanted to do. He didn't make out with her for a long period of time, not gently, not romantically, nothing. A real connection with someone is the slow burn before you start ripping her clothes off. Then she puts a stop to it, and then she tells him, I need to go home tonight. Great. And he respectfully says, okay. He walks her out of his, whatever that is, and takes her into the cab, and he goes, what are you doing next Saturday? And she's like, oh my God, I'm having dinner with you. I'm like, oh my God, you're such a doormat. This is all I was thinking. I was like, girl, how bad do you need this? Got it. As she gets into the cab and tells the cab driver her address, I don't know, toxic bachelor number 2, Capote Duncan, decides a bell goes in his head and he jumps into the cab and he says, take me to whatever and whatever street, which is, then she realizes that you're going to Chaos, the club. Okay. And he goes, yeah, babe, I really respect what you're doing. I get it. You want to hold off, but listen, check it out. I really need to get some sex tonight. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now we have a story. That sounds about right. I wasn't crazy. When I heard that, I was like, then my friends were like, you're not done yet. I'm like, oh crap. Okay. Let me hold my judgment because maybe something miraculously happens with Charlotte. No, that's it. She gets offended and that's all we see of Charlotte. Now we skip over to Skipper and the main captain and Tennille. The main captain. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, right? Miranda. They're on their date, I guess, at Club Chaos. And he's just staring at her and she's bitching, as she always does. You know what? Before we get into this, stay tuned. Okay, start again. She's at the club with Skipper. And he's trying to compliment her. And she's trying to bite his face off. And she is complaining that everybody in there looks like a model. And is she the only one that doesn't? And he's trying to give her a compliment. And whatever came out of his mouth, not even I understood what the hell he was talking about. And she still gets offended. And then he puts his hand on her thigh. And she goes, is that your hand on my thigh? Let's not do that. So Carrie was right. Miranda was going to hate him. Secondly, he's too young for her. Third, she's crazy. Look at the way she's dressed. She's not even dressed to go to a club. I think she's still wearing her suit from work. Great. Suddenly, they're coming out of the club, and she cannot call him Skipper. She calls him Skippy. Really, can you not at least respect, even if you don't want to be there? This is the part that annoys me the most about most of them, except for Samantha. who doesn't remember her men's name because she only has one night stand. So I'm okay with that. I'm talking about just general respect. Skippy. So as she's walking out of the club and she's trying to say goodbye to him, all of a sudden she gives him a kiss on the face or something like that. And then he grabs her. They go to the corner. He aggressively starts making out with her, and then she starts making out with him. And I couldn't do that in front of my friends, but I'm like, you think that's sexy? I seen two hyenas kiss better than that. But remember, I'm supposed to be impressed. More's coming. More's coming. Okay. As Carrie is narrating for her, saying that Miranda didn't like him, but she did appreciate whatever that was. Okay, great. We never see Miranda again. Okay. So we covered Charlotte. We've covered Samantha somewhat because it's coming. The next scene we have is that Capote Duncan, the toxic bachelor who needed to have sex and told the woman that was in his house just 5 minutes ago, the doormat, Charlotte. You have the scene of them two coming in, and I was just sitting there like, what the F just happened? Supposedly, Capote Duncan got his fix for the night, and it just happens to be Samantha. So he did go to Club Chaos. He met up with Samantha, who was rejected by Mr. Big. And they're both walking in as if they're drunk out of their ass. And she wants to see this great artwork, and he wants to see her clothes off. And all of a sudden, he tells her, hey, you can't stay the night because I have a don't give a shit about you meeting tomorrow. And, I saw Samantha, and she was like, oh, well, can't stay either because I have a meeting too. And that made me feel at that moment, I'm like, this girl's not as cold-hearted as she tries to make herself seem. I noticed that from that moment. And then all of a sudden, again, he starts to kiss her on her neck and starts trying to take off her clothes and starts going down the Netherlands. And for a slight second, I swear to God, I saw her feel, what's the word? I don't want to say disgusted, but I felt there was a look that she gave that questioned, is she doing the right thing? And then she gives a little smirk because I guess he reached the Netherlands. And that's when I became especially intrigued about Samantha, because as much as they made that character try to seem that first of all, she is a sex addict. Let's be clear. Okay. There were layers to Samantha that I didn't see layers to the three ding dongs. Not that they didn't have growth in Sex and the City, because they did. It's just some of them grew in ways that I was like, okay. And we're going to get into that. We have 6 years. Don't worry. It's coming. Subscribe. So now, let's get ready for the creme de la creme. Carrie, because now she has no one in the club, because remember, Capote Duncan went home with Samantha, and she's in the street in the middle of the night, and it looks like it's, I'm going to say, the meatpacking district very close to South Street Seaport from the cobblestone stones. I can remember that even from there. It's very specific, very unique. And she's still wearing her heels, and she's trying to hail a cab. And all of a sudden, she realizes that she may have to do the most dreaded thing, which is walk home. And if I'm correct, her house, nobody know near where she is at the club. That's a hell of a walk at night. I don't care what year that is. You're in New York City, girl. And she looks like a hooker. I'm sorry. She does. I guess she's used to it. I would be wearing sandals and sneakers, and I would be waiting for a cab somehow, some way. That wouldn't fly. And I wouldn't even leave my friends alone. That was weird to me, but that doesn't happen often. Okay. Are you ready? The one that set the tone for the rest of the next God-forsaken years. As she's starting to walk home, the limo of all limos Mr. Big. Pulls up, pull up to my bumper, baby. And he tells her, drops the window down. He says, well, what are you doing? Get in. And I'm like, are we doing this again? Are we getting into strangers' car? Well, I guess if you have no other choice, you'd rather go with the man that went like this and knows that you have condoms in your bag and you're only seen twice than walking home in the middle of the night in your heels in the meatpacking district. Yeah, I guess, you got to pick the lesser of two evils. And of course, he has a limo. So that means that it's very safe and he's not going to be able to kill you. Said no one ever. And let the rest of the flirting go. She gets in. He asks, what does she do for a living? And she says, I'm a sexual anthropologist. And he says, does that mean you're a hooker? And I guess that means when we think about what she said and just like that, no men actually respected her for her brains. Well, when you tell someone that you're a sexual anthropologist, instead of saying that you write for a column, what do you expect them to say? And then she clarifies, I write a sex column in the daily bullshit. And that I'm right now doing a investigation about women who have sex like men. And he's like, what? Women who have sex like men and they just get up and they just don't care. And he's like, but you're not like that. And she goes, well, aren't you? He goes, not a drop, not a single drop. And she goes, well, and he goes, I get what you're trying to say. You've never been in love. And that set the entire series. That girl felt as if she just got hit by a love bomb. I'm like, are you okay? Like, she can't have a conversation with this man. He says one freaking thing and she gets wet. And all of a sudden, the next thing I know is that she's getting out of the cab and she tells him as he's about to drive away, she runs over to him and knocks on the door on the limo and he pulls it down. She says, have you ever been in love? And he goes, abso-freaking-lutely. I might have cleaned it up a little bit. And that turned her whole life around. From there on in, that's all it took. If I would have known that abso-freaking-lutely would have gotten me a man, abso-freaking-lutely, abso-freaking-lutely, abso-freaking-lutely. I'm not talking about any man. I'm talking about a millionaire. Because how they parlayed this into an entire relationship, marriage for the next umpteen years, in between her and aiding at the same time for 22 years. Yeah, I'm going to go there. It's fascinating. That's it. Sex and the City, season 1, episode 1. Holy freaking crap. Let's get to my points of view. Stay tuned. Well, going back and revisiting this was something else. It still had the same angst that I felt when I was watching it back then, even now, even knowing what I know now. The characteristics of what I saw happening with these girls really came to the forefront, because I could tell you, I've watched Sex and the City and rewatched it over and over again. And I'm going to say what I said before. It was not until, and just like that, when they tried to recharacterize or reinforce characteristics of certain people, that really made me rethink about all about this. I think that for the most part, they kept Carrie in her lane. Which I think is also attributing to Sarah Jessica Parker playing that role so long that she pretty much knew where to go. And whether she realized it or not, she played a big part of why everyone, and I'm sorry, I just never really connected with her ever in the show, ever. To be honest with them, I never connected with any of them. I found them interesting. I found the Samantha character was the glue that held this show together, not because of the way that she approached sex as a sex addict. That was different and wasn't really seen a lot or heard a lot. It was the moments of her genuine self and I feel that she was lonely, and how she covered that up, and her true friendship for all of them, mostly Carrie as well. how she pulled through when people didn't expect her to pull through on certain things. I think that made it interesting. I think that the Carrie and Big storyline was just a little bit, I don't want to say unrealistic because that happens. It's just, I don't, it didn't do anything for me, right? In the sense that I've read about these and there's movies about it, and there's always girl meets boy is rich, she finds love and they fall in love and all this other crap. And it's like, it's been done so many times. What made Carrie interesting is that she was more of the type of person that you would not be clear if she was really your friend or she was your enemy. And as we start getting into the other episodes, you're going to realize that where the more narcissistic, it's all about Carrie and, Carrie and this is the world, kind of thing happens more often than you believe. Charlotte, I've seen and met 1,000 of those Charlottes. They all live in Long Island, which is where I live. They all live in Jersey. You can pretty much find all these women except for Samantha if you ever watch The Real Housewives of any version. Any version. Miranda, the bitchy New Yorker bitch that, always working and always complaining. Yeah, there's 50 of them in my office, even today. It was nothing to me. I felt like this was more of an upscale Friends. You have Rachel, which I would consider, who would I consider? Yeah, I would consider Carrie to be Rachel. Okay. You have Monica. And I think Monica is split between Carrie and Charlotte, right? And then you have Samantha, who was the outlier. And for me, when I watch Friends, who I like out of the three women, I lean towards Phoebe. I like that quirky sense of humor, out there, tough as nails, crazy bitch. To me, she made the show for me. The show would have been good with the two girls, and the guys are a different story completely. So let's not get into, I'm talking about the females. But at the end of the day, for me, Phoebe represented who I was. I didn't fit in anywhere, but everyone still wanted me around. That's how I felt with my friends. Thank God this episode was over. I remember I was like, all right, y'all need to get out now. Like, do you love it? Are you going to watch it? I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm kind of watching season 2. So now I got to watch this. And I bought HBO for you. And I got one over. So, and then I made them to go watch some of the movies that I liked, bitching and moaning and screaming at the time. And still today. They're never going to have enough money to pay me back for anything. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. Like, these shows didn't really, like, watching it the first time, I was like, okay, so this is a little bit more naughtier than Friends. As far as subjects being talked about, I didn't really feel, and I hate to use this word, as if they were, and I'm not sure if I'm using it properly, they were being woke. I feel that it was natural to have gay friends, transgender friends, bisexual friends. And maybe it's because, I've come across so many of them, and they're very popular in New York. Like, it's not like it's a big shock. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can tell you the one thing that I'd never heard before the show was non-binary, right? That to me was the first time I heard about that. But everything else before that didn't make a difference to me. So for me, this first episode, though it set the tone, it brought in Mr. Big, though I prayed and wished that he had run away. It made me understand the anchor of what was going on in season 2 and why Samantha broke up with, you know who. I'll tell you when we get there. And I can see why the obsession of some of the girls and my friends about the show, because they were doing and saying things that, for my group, we didn't get down and dirty like this, but we had open conversations. And I already had a child. I had my son at 25. When this show came out, I was 29. And I think the most important part was the panic that was setting into my friends about settling down in their 30s and not finding a man. And that to me was the one that was the hard part, because it's like, it was scary, even today it's scary. When you're fearing of being alone and you don't have someone and everybody keeps telling you, you're getting old, you're getting old, you're getting old, the pool is getting smaller and you're going to be alone, you're going to die alone. And I'm like, holy crap. Can I just not be okay and be alive and enjoy my life? And if someone comes along and wants to share it with me, I hadn't gotten married yet, believe it or not. Can I just not share my life? It said a panic. It was a little panicky. I think that was the most suffocating part of watching this first episode. And the second one didn't get any better, but we'll get into that next week. So tell me what you thought. Did you like the structure? Again, prologue, not going to happen all the time. I'm doing it only for the purposes of what I said. Every new season, I will do a little bit of a history of that year. Tell me if you enjoyed that. If you like me to include that, I feel that we need to immerse ourselves in going back to understand where our mental capacity was at that time. Tell me how you felt about this episode. Are you rewatching it with me? Do you remember it? Did you feel the same way? I cannot wait till you guys engage with me with something that is so much better than what we got these last 3 years. And the guys, the ones that have stayed with me, watching me go through this, please come back. Let's do this. We're going to have some fun because there's some funny stuff that does happen. And I cannot tell you how much I respect all of you and love all of you. And I'm not going to cry. Not this time. Shh, you're crying. My last video for the last episode of the last series of Just Like That pushed it so far. And it's all because of you guys, your engagement, your comments. And again, I'm going to go into my comments for this video. So give me some time. It does take time to edit. And we're going to do this every single week until this series is over. So I just want to tell you all, have a wonderful, wonderful, blessed day. Thank you. Goodbye. Mwah.